the extent of patience and tolerance, and then that time you'll say, oh, it's not to be determined by government in this regard. Politically, so sorry to Mr. President, it's to be determined by the people. So the stretch of the patience of the people is not to be determined by government. So if the people had exercised this patience from May 29th, remember it was almost immediately after that pronouncement, things began to change. And the Nigerians have lived on. Even right now, we're still patient, because if we were not, the outpouring of Nigerians on the street would have overwhelmed even the government. Forget about the pockets of the protests in Kano, in Kaduna, in Oyo, right now. But it would have been so overwhelming. So Nigerians are patient. We've waited. They've said so. In fact, it has become a family plea thing. Mr. President has pleaded with Nigerians. His wife has done so. His son has done so. His daughter has done so. And government officials are doing the same. But we live in a country where we know the realities. These individuals who are saying all of this, a young man who is wearing a wristwatch about 300 million naira is telling me to be patient. A lady who is observing her birthday in an island or somewhere cozy will tell me to be patient. It's not like that in the UK, where you talk about Sunak and then the rest of them. And then so, ultimately, the point I'm making is that patience would also be tested on the direction of the policies of government. Elsewhere, take the comparison, the policy you have made for the UK is to the benefit of the people. So it's not about the reaction of the immigrants, those who want to go in.
But it's also on the UK citizens.
No, it's more on the benefit of the people.
Oh yes.
Check the reaction. It's more on the benefit of the people. Then you see, okay, let me say something I've just started saying lately in some discourse. Before the advent of the World Trade Organization, right, we had the General Agreement on Trade and Tariffs, GATT regime. During the GATT regime, the argument had been that, countries that are stronger economically were protecting their economies and their people. So the concept of protectionism cannot be taken away from bilateral trade relations and agreements. Now, when we got to even the World Trade Organization, where we thought that there was going to be liberalization in terms of tariff setting, excise, and control of trade across borders, the argument up to today, even though Okonjo Iweala is the DG there, is still protectionism. That there are stronger countries that are protecting their people, even in their relations with another country in terms of trade and exchange. Why can't you do the same? You see, sometimes I wonder the kind of people we have controlling our affairs as those in government. So that's actually the basic. The point we are making, we're not saying that government can't try some policies and that some may not take time. There are long-term policies, medium-term, and then, if you like, immediate policies. But when it comes to the existence of human, it should be the immediate term. A professor, former executive secretary of National Health Scheme in this country, Professor Yusuf, was just saying lately, a few days ago, that look, they should suspend everything about brick and mortar development and focus on the actual existence, the need for people to eat, move, live in a go. That because there's hunger in the land, and then there is palpable threat of more, if you like, threatening violence that will overwhelm the people. And that's the reality about it. Again, the United Nations in terms of sustainable development is not in respect to how much the skyscrapers you have in your city. Look at the indicators, look at the targets, look at even what the goals are. For us, we only will sign in. We did the Millennium Development Goals, and then it's finished, it's phased out. We are now sustainable. How much of the Millennium Development Goals did we achieve? Because for us, it's just to follow. The numbers don't concern us. In the real terms of development, defining development, sustainable development for today and our common future, it's not about these bridges and skyscrapers. Imagine how many billions we spent in building bridges, but just less than 1 year the man has left. People are hungry in the state. But imagine if we promoted agriculture. Whilst you're building the bridges, be strategic in your decision making, right? There's strategic decision making. If your strategy will like, okay, look,
instead of building 12, you build
3, 4, and look at the most strategic areas and build, and then some other mechanisms for even controlling traffic, give the purpose for traffic. There are a whole lot. What about diversifying? What about expanding the cities? But then everything was like somebody or some people were going to benefit from the 13 or 14 bridges. So it must be bridges alone. But you forgot that people were going to be hungry. And if they are hungry, they are not going to be on the bridges. There are bridges in Port Harcourt today that if you're driving on, you're probably alone on it.
Sure.
Because if today 900 naira, 1,000 naira per liter, who will be buying fuel to get on the roads to be on the bridge? money is nothing, and then inflation has eaten up that 1 trillion per state or a local government, it means nothing. So it actually, there is no effect.
So it was a bad decision for
It was a bad decision. It was a hasty decision. It wasn't thought through. In fact, it was just a few days ago that I actually even got deeper to understanding how this really works. I was talking with a former director of the Central Bank, and I was giving some of the impact of this decision and when the way it was made and the time it was made. I didn't even realize, I didn't remember that on the 29th of May 2023, when Mr. President made that proclamation. Indeed, truly, it is not that I actually just woke up to that realization that he actually had not constituted even his cabinet to have an alternative thought of even what he was going to pronounce. It meant that he probably had not got that advice, whether economic or anyway, to look into the impact of that pronouncement or even how this was to be done. It was after the pronouncement that Nigeria began to struggle when Labour made the threats to going on industrial action, that we began to struggle as to what options would be. The options, or rather, if you like, the palliatives or the cushioning effect, decisions that government made, were after the pronouncement on May 29th. Several months after that, okay, no, we will set up some vehicles, CNG, and not to do, we haven't seen one. Oh, we will do this, we'll do that. It was after. And immediately
for a president that said, it's been my lifelong dream to become.
Sometimes some of us criticize whether you really were prepared to govern or you were preparing to assume office as the president. They are two different things. You actually could be aspiring to become the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and you could be working the political end to that. There are two aspects to it. The political end is, of course, which is possible, is democracy. So it is going to be an election. The popular candidate is going to win. And then in our own climb, whether it's in the real dry votes or the other way, but then you are going to win. So the preparation perhaps he has had all the years is building structures across the country. And that's why you find in states across the country, everybody wanted, oh, he's our godfather. He built structure here. He's got people in Oyo. He's got people in Oshun. He installed this governor here and that. That's the preparation he's done. Then the other is probably also, if it's about the institutions and the structures, allegedly, where we saw that what played out at the tribunal, right? Where politicians have also infiltrated the judiciary by knowing that after elections in Nigeria, it wouldn't end with the pronouncement of INEC, but we would go to the tribunals. So right now what they do, the politicians do, their children, their cousins, their brothers, their wives are in the judiciary. And those are the people that are going to constitute the tribunals. So those are the preparations they should actually have done. They didn't do any preparations as for governance. In terms of providing the welfare,
I feel like
that's why even when they assume office, you don't feel any difference. There is certainly no difference between one government and another. If at all there is any, the Nigerians will feel it's a deepening difference. That's worse. You could imagine that maybe Buhari's government was worse than Jonathan's government. Then Tinubu's government, in just 6 months, worse than Buhari's government. Even as we're gnashing now, suffocating now, perhaps if Tinubu leaves, the next person will be worse than Tinubu's government. Is that how we're going to go? Is that the preparation?